Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's D-Zone webinar with Informatica from Salesforce. Today's topic, build an AI-ready data foundation through cloud modernization. Hey, I'm Caleb Kinchlow, and I'll be your host for today's session. Now, before we get started, just a quick bit of housekeeping. Today's session is being recorded, and we'll send the on-demand recording after the event. And if you have any questions during the presentation, please submit them using the Q&A panel, and we'll address as many as we can during the Q&A portion at the end. AI is moving quickly, but many organizations are still trying to support with data environments that were built for a very different era. Legacy systems and fragmented data environments can make it difficult to support the speed and the scale that modern AI requires. Today, we'll look at why cloud modernization has become such an important part of the AI conversation and what it takes to build a data foundation that's ready for the next generation of AI applications. Now, I'm pleased to introduce today's speaker. Joining us is Ashu Saxena, VP of Product Management at Informatica. Ashu leads cloud modernization initiatives and has spent more than 18 years helping organizations modernize their data environments through migration automation, best practices, and self-service tools. Ashu, thanks for joining us today. And with that, I hand it over to you.
Thank you, Caleb. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here, guys. Let's get this ball rolling. Caleb, as you rightly said, today we are talking about data foundation and why data is extremely important for building an AI-ready enterprise. Let's get this rolling. I'll give a moment. Okay. So, Caleb, the first thing I want to talk about with our audience today is the readiness, the ambition, and the bottleneck that we see with enterprises with regards to data and their AI. Now, these stats have been pulled from Gartner and IBM research. Let's understand what they are talking about. So it should be no surprise to anybody. The ambition for organizations to have AI deployed as early as 2027 is extremely large. 90% of the organizations are talking about doing things with AI or AI readiness. But the fact remains that only 12%, mere 12%, are actually ready. What you need for AI readiness is data quality, having an architecture that's scalable, the integrations that are available to you. That is a very small number. And unfortunately, a very large number of executives think that the technical debt, that's nearly 80%, is contributing to constraining the AI readiness. Now, in the AI world, data is powering the quality of the output of the agents. Let's draw a contrast here. The era of dashboards leading to the era of the agents. Now, everybody is familiar with the era of the dashboards. This is where analytics was being fed by the data. Analytics was driving the outcome of the optimization that the enterprises were looking for. Data was typically batched, sorted, and prepared to feed into these analytic systems. And generally speaking, latency was okay and acceptable. It was considered part of doing business. Flip that over into the agentic enterprise. Data is equally, if not more important, to collaborate, to power this human and AI system interaction. And please note, this is all happening in real time. Here, enterprises cannot even afford to have latency in the system because that would be considered an operational failure. Decisions are being taken by AIs in an autonomous fashion, and that, my friends, would dictate that latency cannot be a part of it. Now, one thing I wanted to point out here is this, what I call invisible tax. Like any other enterprise, your enterprise likely has a large infrastructure of on-premises solutions, technologies, and data. These data systems are typically siloed, leading to disconnected experiences. What ends up happening because of that is people, developers, business users start losing productivity. The decisions that come out of it are flawed, inconsistent. The insights are not complete. And that leads to increase in exposure, compliance, and related risk. I also wanted to point this out, this what I call an upgrade treadmill problem. Can you upgrade and enhance your on-prem systems? Yes. It's like upgrading a treadmill that is still very much tethered to the on-premise. In the meanwhile, your tech debt is growing, and your stakeholders, the business owners that are interested in getting newer, better outcomes, are having a fear of missing out. So where do we grow from here? And how do we improve upon this? I think the first thing that we all need to understand is the primitives that are required to improve, to accelerate the business outcomes. How do we get there, and what is needed to achieve that? The outcomes that we are looking for, the outcomes that enterprises are looking for, are ability to improve your decision-making capabilities. As enterprises are leveraging AI and their infrastructure to get these outcomes, the aspects of security and security controls become even more important. Time to value is extremely critical for enterprises these days. By the time some of the enterprises deploy a solution and get the outcome out of it, their competition has already moved to the newer, better technology. While the enterprises are putting all of this together, there is an aspect of achieving greater operational efficiency and not just throwing more money at it. We increasingly see this aspect with enterprises, where enterprises start with putting more infrastructure around the problem, but that leads to decreased operational efficiency. So it's a critical aspect of how enterprises and customers should be thinking about it. And by the way, as all of this landscape is increasing, it's becoming harder, more complex to maintain it. So it's equally important to make sure that a simplification is thought of from the ground up. Now, as I talk to these enterprises, I see three classes of what I call modernization readiness. The largest bucket is of enterprises that are in what I call the early stages. They're starting to think about building the foundation. Some of them have secured a buy-in from their business owners or are in the process of securing it, generally driven by compliance and compliance-related topics. And they are thinking about architecting, trying to design, how do they break the data silos, the infrastructure silos that have been built over the number of years. But as enterprises mature out of that early stage, they start to evolve. They start to scale. And that's when the modernization is not just about modernizing the infrastructure, but truly leveraging cloud and cloud-based infrastructure to employ new use cases and increase the agility of seeing those business outcomes sooner rather than later. And the pinnacle of that, it truly is this advanced stage. That's when the enterprises are absolutely fully 100% ready, not just in terms of having modernized their existing infrastructure, but are truly ready to leverage that and feed into and scale their AI-driven innovation across the entire organization. I would like to ask for yourself, which stage of modernization readiness you are at. There is a QR code at the corner if you want to take a peek at what that is, and that will help you understand where you stand as an enterprise today. When enterprises start thinking about modernization, and I talk to a lot of the customers on how they should be thinking about it, I get these two responses. Let's double click on this. Let's understand what they are talking about. The general response is lift and shift. And what that means is I will simply pick up my infrastructure that's currently hosted on a data center that's currently owned by my company. And I will pick that up and move that over to a cloud hosted infrastructure. Lift and shift. That's one way to think about it. And then there is the other extreme where enterprises, architects think, hey, what we had built over last several years is just not going to cut it. Let's go ahead and rip and replace it with something brand new. To me, both of these are extreme in nature. To me, the better way to think about this is a more measured approach of how you should think about modernization. And over the years, I have had a chance to work with a large number of customers who have taken the time to share with us, share with Informatica, their way of their learnings of the modernization that I want to summarize in these three guiding principles. The first feedback I got from the customers is they want to make sure that the extremes of the rip and replace does not interrupt their existing business process. That the current business processes and the systems should continue to work uninterrupted. Absolutely critical for the enterprises. And as they are thinking about it, as they are putting these new solutions together, it's equally important to think about future-proofing your investment. And what I mean by that is if you are simply lifting and shifting your infrastructure over into cloud, then you are truly not investing in the next generation architectures of the world. That you have to start to invest in it from the day one. While you are doing all that, let's make sure that the outcome, the business outcome of that translates into improved efficiencies, of course, at the same time, reduced total cost of ownership. Those to me are the principles, those three principles coming together are the way to think about how enterprises can maximize their business value. So how should I think about modernization? How should I de-risk modernization approach? I break that down into three steps. Assess, architect, modernize. Let's understand each one of these. To me, assessment is taking a stack of what do you currently have, analyzing it, understanding it, taking an inventory of what do you have. Let's double click on it. Understanding what you have in your infrastructure, your environment, your data is extremely important. Before you start developing an implementation plan, understand what you can benefit from, what you can reuse, what you can repurpose, what you can leverage. And that will feed into how you think about building new things while continuing to run your business off of the old one. But let's remember one important thing, that's the most important thing. A well-defined business outcome is extremely crucial. So as you are putting together the assessment, and as you are defining what your existing infrastructure look like, keep an eye on this ball. Keep an eye on what your desired business outcomes are. For some customers, it's reducing the total cost of ownership. For other customers, is increasing the efficiency. For a different customer, it could be improved customer engagement, or reducing the cost of owning a new customer, or the ability to respond to their customers in a faster manner. Define your business outcome crisply is how I would think about it. Again, a QR code for your reference if you wanted to understand in greater detail on how Informatica has put together this assessment process. We talked about architecting for the future and why it is important for not just lift and shift, but truly from the ground up, architecting for the future. Some of the key considerations that go into architecting for the future start with understanding the use case. I see this all the time. Enterprises sometimes are quick enough to start architecting in the cloud world without fully understanding what use cases they are trying to optimize for. Documenting it and getting sign-off from your stakeholders is the ground zero. Start there. And then think about, am I looking at centralizing or a decentralized architecture? Is this something that I'm building that's going to be leveraged enterprise-wide? Or is this a departmental solution that eventually at some point would mature out and become available for my entire enterprise? Data sharing is an interesting one. More and more customers want the data to be available to as many users as possible. How should I think about sharing data? Is it just sharing data in its raw form? Or should I be building data products that can then be shared in a mature state with the other stakeholders? Is it self-service? Am I taking everything on-prem and moving that over into cloud? Or are there topics, use cases, instances, examples of my infrastructure that would remain on-prem while I start to build new infrastructure and new use cases in cloud, making it a hybrid solution? All of those considerations need to be factored into how you think about architecting for the next generation. Equally important as you start to put this together, because the same infrastructure, the same data products are going to start feeding not just humans, but AI and agentic enterprise. The way Informatica thinks about architecting for the future is starting with a platform that's AI ready. IDMC, or Informatica Data Management Cloud, has been built from the ground up. It's an AI-ready platform that has the underpinnings of a unified metadata foundation. That means whether you are doing integration, governance, mastering, or anything else related to AI, data and data-related context is what is the building block of that unified metadata foundation, regardless of which part of the business that you start with. A shared metadata approach is extremely important as you think about architecting for the future. And IDMC is the right platform for you to start building those experiences. I want to give you a blueprint of how you can think about modernizing without disrupting your business. On the left, what you are seeing is your existing enterprise that's running behind a firewall today. De-risking and making sure your business continues to run would mean that your parallel operations are starting in IDMC in the cloud while you continue to run your business on-prem and have extensive testing set up that makes sure that nothing about the data and nothing about your enterprise is different between the two. over time, you start to cut over your business processes over to IDMC, running off of cloud. And eventually, as you mature this out, you can start to look at shutting down your enterprises or your business processes that are running behind your firewall, and everything is running off of your cloud-based infrastructure only. Hybrid, you may still have some aspects of it that are running on-prem, but you get the idea. As Informatica put together modernization tooling, we made sure that it is AI first. I'm happy to report you that both PowerCenter and MDM have AI-powered tooling that's available directly to you as a customer to understand first what you have been running in your infrastructure with these two products, and how Informatica can help you using AI-powered tools and technologies to as much automatically convert over into the IDMC assets as much as possible. One common question that I get from the customers is, I'm putting all of this together. How can Informatica help? I have good news. Again, a QR code to point to the success portal. It's got extensive pieces of information that you can use with your developers, with your business, to make sure that one, you are ready. The onboarding journeys, the experience launch, even before you start to actually use the product, the prototyping work, the experience work can start to give you an early experience of what this process would look like. There are learning paths available. There are solution accelerators available. Last but not the least, we also have experts through the Ask an Expert forums that are available to you for one-on-one coaching enablement to make sure that you are ready as you migrate and modernize towards cloud. I wanted to point this out quickly in terms of how customers are thinking about going from their current state to the future state. On the left, what you are seeing is Informatica and competitive products that you may be using in your enterprise today. Now, as you start to think about expanding that, I see the example of some of the examples that I've put here include, I'm trying to shut down my data centers, or I am increasing my throughput of the responses that I can provide to customer escalations, or I'm investing deeply and heavily in AI and AI-based initiatives. There are customers who are heavy on tools consolidation, regardless of the use case that you are expanding into. What I would want to emphasize on and encourage you is start with IDMC as your future state, using the migration modernization methodology that I just talked about. Start to bring those use cases over into IDMC as you modernize your existing infrastructure and existing business use cases over into IDMC as well. I want to leave you with some customer stories and examples. I generally get asked, hey, I'm in the insurance. What does it mean for me to have a business outcome, and what other customers have been able to achieve? Some examples here. Insurance, for example, I have customers who have been able to reduce their operational cost by over 80%. Manufacturing, I have customers who have examples where they have been able to increase their developer efficiency by over 7 times, and so forth. Where do I go from here? What do I do? How can Informatica help? 3 steps. Start with assessment. Another QR code. Let's understand, where do you stand today? What infrastructure do you have? What assets do you have? How much can you benefit from reusing them, repurposing them? You do not have to rip and replace. you can automate converting them over as much as possible. You want to make sure that your business owners are aligned with it. Let's work with you on understanding the return on that investment. Help us help you identify the savings that you would be able to achieve through the modernization. And lastly, upscaling your developers and making sure they are ready for the new AI agentic world. Resources are available for that as well. With that, I would like to thank you for your time today. Caleb, back to you. Let's see if the audience has any questions.
Absolutely. Ashu, thank you so much. That was incredibly insightful. As you said, now it's time to move into our audience questions. And just as a reminder for you all, you can submit your questions on the Q&A panel, and we'll get to as many as we can during this session. All right, so Ashu, let's jump right in. So one of the questions that came through, it says, I can't afford to turn off my business operations while we modernize for AI. How does the IDMC migration path allow me to run hybrid environments, keeping my current production stable while shifting workloads to a cloud-native agentic-ready architecture?
Caleb, it's a very pertinent question that I get faced all the time from our customers. It's a real one because, as I said before, what you do not want is to take this drastic approach of having to rewrite everything from the scratch, disrupting your business that's running today. Informatica modernization approach is a two-stepped approach. First, we make sure that your current business processes continue to run as is. We connect them to cloud so you benefit from the upgrades and the patching work that you spend time on today that can all be automated while your business continues to run off of that. Step two, we then leverage AI-powered automation to benefit from reusing, repurposing, and automatically migrating those assets as much as possible over into IDMC native. That's how you de-risk it, and that's how you get the best of both worlds.
Absolutely, great answer. Next question we have here says, I'm running legacy workloads on data stage and custom SQL procedures. Can I use your automated modernization tools to consolidate those non-Informatica assets into IDMC, or am I stuck with manual rewrites for those specific silos?
Another great question. Every enterprise that I talk to is not just dealing with one. It's typically dealing with anywhere from 3 to 5 of these. It's just the nature of the business. Over time, it grows. And you are dealing with a multitude of different solutions that you have put together. The short answer to your question is yes. Help is available for you to migrate out of data stage and into IDMC. We will work with you to make sure that we can repurpose as much of that infrastructure as possible without you having to rewrite everything from the scratch.
Okay. Well, Ashu, let's talk a little bit about timing here. So let's say if a company doesn't have 3 years for migration, they might have an AI mandate for, let's say, the end of the year. How soon can they modernize and really start building these agents?
Great question. I have customers who have been able to convert their infrastructure into an IDMC cloud connected infrastructure in a matter of weeks. Now, that may be a little bit extreme because these businesses were truly agile and were truly geared towards converting that over. But it's very common for these customers to be able to benefit from that and then feed those systems into the AI and agentic world in a matter of a couple of months. So the help is available here. The automation would allow you to benefit from it sooner rather than later. And those blueprint of how to think about it and how to execute on is available as you work with Informatica.
Well, sure. I mean, a week to a month, that's definitely a great timeline.
Absolutely.
And with that, unfortunately, we are out of time for questions today to our audience. But if you didn't get your questions answered this time, the Informatica team will follow up afterwards. Ashu, thank you again for joining us. And This was very insightful conversation, but I wanted to kick it back to you just really quickly for people to have more questions about how to connect and just to get more information.
No, absolutely. And again, I'd like to thank you and the audience for spending time with us today. I would encourage you, visit the QR codes that we shared previously. And last but not the least, reach out to Informatica. We are here to help you through this journey.
All right. Thank you, Ashu. And thank you to everyone that joined us today. And a reminder, keep an eye on your inbox for the on-demand recording. Once again, I'm Caleb Kinchlow, and we hope to see you at a future D-Zone webinar.
Thank you.